Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to share with you a fatwa that I've been working on for the last number of weeks. The fatwa is the permissibility of following an imam in a masjid from home while hearing the imam's movement in real time via live streaming within one city during times where masajid are closed and gatherings are prohibited. This is primarily for Jumaa and secondarily for other prayers such as Taraweeh. Why is this fatwa coming out now? Well, these are unprecedented times. The world is going through turmoil like never before. And during these unprecedented times, we are required to have unprecedented methods of thought and fatwas that serve our communities appropriately. Whom is this fatwa serving? Primarily, this fatwa regarding Jumu'ah will serve communities, allowing communities to revive Jumu'ah and to attend Jumu'ah from their homes and feel connected to their congregation. Secondarily, regarding Taraweeh, for example, in Ramadan, this fatwa will serve those who don't have the ability to pray from their homes, or don't have the ability to recite the Quran on their own during the night, or those who know that they won't do it even though they have the ability. You see, the better way of doing Taraweeh is to pray Taraweeh at home with your family. This is the better way to do it. This is the better and more prominent opinion for people to pray Taraweeh, to pray it at home with their own family, reciting the Quran themselves. But if someone can't do that, if that is difficult to a certain group of people, or they feel that they need the Ramadan environment to actually enjoy Taraweeh, and they feel that losing that environment will harm them and harm their children and harm their ability to benefit from Ramadan, then this fatwa is directed towards them. For how long is this fatwa valid? This fatwa is valid for as long as masajid are closed. The moment masajid open their doors, this fatwa expires immediately. This fatwa is invalid when masajid are opened and people are allowed to go pray within them. This is very important, and I cannot emphasize this point enough. The only time that this fatwa that I'm giving is acceptable and valid is during times when masajid are closed and we are not allowed to congregate as a community. Why wouldn't this fatwa be acceptable during normal times? Well, the argument that the fuqaha and the scholars of Islam throughout history have put forward regarding the conditions that allow a congregational prayer to be a valid congregational prayer, for a salat al-jama'ah to be a proper salat al-jama'ah, are a number of things that the madhahib differ upon, but if you put them all together, we come up with a list. The Hanafiya said that there shouldn't be more than 2 lines between a following worshipper and another following worshipper, or the imam, in order for the salat al-jama'ah to be valid. The Malikiya said as long as the following worshipper can hear the imam, then he should be good. The Shafi'iyya said that the person praying outside the masjid should only be 300 dhira'. Dhira' is basically a meter, so around 300 meters away. Not anything beyond that, the Salat al-Jama'ah is invalid. And the Hanabila said that the following worshipper should be able to see another following worshipper, or the imam, for at least a certain portion of the prayer. So if you put them all together, what we end up having in terms of conditions, we need to be able to see either other following worshippers, the lines ahead of us, or the imam during certain times of prayer. We should be able to hear the takbir so we know what's happening, and there should be continuity of lines. Those are the conditions that when put together, make a congregational prayer a congregational prayer. What they all agree upon is proximity. All the madhahib agree that in order for a congregational prayer to be a valid one, there must be proximity between the people who are the following worshippers, and their imam. And that is 100% correct, and I fully agree with that. During normal times, that makes full sense. That's how you hold on to the apparent part, or the apparent aspect of what a jama'ah is. Everything in Islam has an apparent aspect and has an essence. And in order for us to hold on to the apparent aspect of jama'ah, we need to physically and geographically be in proximity of one another in order for the prayer to be valid. So if masajid are open and you have the ability to be in proximity of your imam and the other following worshippers, and you choose not to, then you've invalidated your own prayer by praying too far away. And that is 100% correct. Why is this fatwa acceptable now? As I explained, there are a number of conditions that will allow a congregational prayer to be a congregational prayer. The one that they all agree upon is the proximity between the imam and the following worshippers, regardless of the actual distance. Now, the issue today is that that aspect has been taken away from us. I mean, we are not allowed to actually be in proximity of one another. This fatwa is not to allow people to pray far away from one another. This fatwa is coming during a time where we're not allowed to pray in proximity of one another, which is the main condition that all the madhahib agree upon. The other conditions, we already have situations where we have overruled. For example, if you are praying in a lower level in a masjid, then you're not actually seeing the imam or the followers of the imam. And that is regarding the condition of seeing. Regarding hearing, we know that today we are using technology to amplify sound in a way that was not possible a long time ago. So if we were going to stick to what happened during the Prophet ﷺ's time, then people will only be able to hear to a certain extent, and then after that it would be impossible. But today, with microphones, we're able to make sure that people hear even if they are several hundred meters away. And regarding the continuity of lines, well, if you go and pray in any of the big masajid of the world, you will see people praying in groups, and there is lack of continuity of lines. And yes, I understand that is in Masjid al-Haram and Masjid al-Nabawi, but still, these are situations where we have overruled these conditions. But we've never overruled the condition of proximity. And that is why this fatwa is important, because today, that proximity has been taken away. We are deprived from being close to one another because of the situation that we have and because of the pandemic that we are living in. Jama'ah, or congregation, has an essence and has an apparent aspect, like everything else in Islam. If the apparent aspect of Jama'ah, the geographical and physical proximity, is taken away, or we are deprived of it because of the current pandemic, does that mean we don't have Jama'ah anymore? Some may say yes. I beg to differ. For example, a prayer has an apparent aspect to it and has an essence. If someone were to be very ill, and they cannot move any of their limbs, would that mean that they don't have to pray? Obviously, you would say no. They still pray. Well, how are they going to do it? They will do it with their eyes, with their mind, meaning the essence of prayer is still going to be preserved, even though the apparent part of prayer is not. It's a similar situation. Jama'ah, the apparent part has been taken away. We can't pray in proximity of one another, but that doesn't mean we have to lose our Jama'ah altogether. And the reason being is that the conditions that I talked to you about, the condition of proximity, the condition of seeing some of the following worshippers or the imam for a certain part of prayer, the condition of hearing, and the condition of continuity of lines are conditions that are based on logic. They're based on the imams throughout history understanding of what jama'ah means. It doesn't come from a nas. It doesn't come from a text that has certainty. I mean, it doesn't come from the Quran, and it doesn't come from the certain parts of Sunnah. It's the understandings of imams. Does that mean that it's wrong? No, it is 100% correct. But when we have evidence that lacks that level of certainty, and evidence that does not follow a clear text, it gives us flexibility during times of unprecedented problems, which allows us to generate a fatwa like the one I am sharing with you today. A good example for that is that when the Prophet ﷺ said, "Sallu fi rihalikum," pray within your homes during specific times, many scholars have understood that to be that the Prophet ﷺ would pray in the masjid leading prayer, and people would follow him from their homes because they could hear him. If you look at what the Malikiyya said specifically, the Malikiyya were very flexible regarding the conditions of congregation. They said as long as you can hear the imam, then your prayer is fine. To the point where the Malikiyya said that if two ships were close together in sea, but were not attached, and one imam was praying in congregation on one ship, then the people on the other ship could follow as long as they could hear him. This is known within their madhab. If you go to the Fatwa al-Kubra for Ibn Taymiyyah, if you go to the second volume, you will find him very, very clearly stating that praying behind an imam from outside a masjid when there are obstacles between you and the imam has different opinions. And he says very clearly, وَلَا رَيْبَ أَنَّ ذَلِكَ جَائِزٌ مَعَ الْحَاجَةِ. And there is no doubt that this is permissible during times of need. And he gives an example by saying, such as when masajid are closed, when the doors to the masjid are closed. And because of all these points, I believe within the times that we are living in right now, to pray virtually behind an imam, to follow an imam in prayer from your home while he is leading in the masjid, as long as you can hear the imam's movements in real time, is permissible as long as masajid doors are closed. Why necessarily in one city am I saying that? Because a jama'ah is determined by cities. A Jumu'ah, for example, is determined within a city. Multiple cities don't have one Jumu'ah, but each city will have its own Jumu'ah, and that is something that is very clear within the madhahib. So I believe within one city, which is one Jama'ah, this is permissible. Beyond cities, it's not, because it doesn't serve the purpose of keeping the Jama'ah alive, which is the whole soul and spirit of this fatwa that I am offering. What fears are there regarding this fatwa? The fears that exist from this fatwa is that people hear this and decide that they're allowed to follow imams from home indefinitely, and that they don't have to come to masajid to follow along in congregational prayer. And that is completely untrue. And I've emphasized that at the beginning, and I'll repeat it now. This fatwa is only permissible, it's only valid as long as masajids have their doors closed. The moment the masajid open their doors, then this fatwa is no longer valid and it expires immediately. So the fear is that people start to use this fatwa to lessen the times they need to come to masjid, or to have someone come to the masjid and live stream the prayer for them and they can pray from home. When masajid doors are opened, this is not permissible. The reason it is not permissible is because people have the ability to fulfill the apparent part of jama'ah and chose not to. It's like if you have the ability to fulfill the apparent part of prayer by doing the movements, but you choose not to when you pray in your head or with your eyes, your prayer is invalid. And it's a very similar situation. How do we apply this fatwa? All you need to have is live streaming of a congregational prayer, of an imam praying, where you're hearing the imam's movements in real time. Under no circumstances can you follow an imam when you're listening to a recording. It is never ever acceptable. It has to be in real time. As long as you can hear the imam, then you can follow the imam's movements. So a good way to do this is inshallah, when we start our virtual Jum'ahs, you can put up a screen. You can watch the imam or listen and watch the imam give the khutbah, and then when he stands up to pray, you stand up in your house and you follow the imam in prayer. He is your imam and you're the following worshipper. Regarding Jum'ah specifically, once you've done that, once the imam has given the khutbah, you've listened to it, and then you prayed with the imam 2 rak'ah Jum'ah, you should pray 4 rak'ah dhuhr after that. If you're saying, well, why? We've already fulfilled it if this fatwa is proper. The reason is because Jum'ah in this situation has not been done optimally. This is not the perfect or proper or best way to do Jum'ah, as we know, because there's not enough people in the masjid at the time, and we're scattered all over. So in this situation, we actually have a fatwa that goes quite back in time. The Shafi'iyya gave around 1,000 years ago, where they said if Jum'ah is not done optimally within a city because there's too many masajid that we don't need, or we don't know which one did it first, then all the masajid in that city should pray 2 rak'ah Jum'ah behind their imam, and then everyone pray dhuhr 4 rak'ah after. And this is an old fatwa. If you go to Damascus, you will see that this fatwa is still being used today. And I think this is the perfect application of this fatwa today. So the way this is going to be done for Jum'ah is that you attend Salat al-Jum'ah, you follow the imam in his 2 rak'ah Jum'ah prayer, and you get the ajr of attending Jum'ah inshallah full, and then you pray 4 rak'ah dhuhr. Regarding Taraweeh, the same thing. You will follow the imam in Isha 4 rak'at, and then you'll follow the imams within their Taraweeh and follow them in Witr, and you don't have to repeat any of those prayers. Jumu'ah has a specific status when it comes to being done optimally, in contrast to all the other prayers. The screen does not have to be in the Qibla. You don't have to have your television or your laptop or whatever you're using to stream in the Qibla. It could be anywhere. What's really important is the ability to hear the imam making the movements, reciting the Quran, so you can follow along appropriately. What happens if you lose live streaming? Well, if you can't hear the imam anymore, this is very similar to praying in a lower level in a masjid, and electricity goes out and you can't hear through the speaker the imam making the movements anymore. What you do is you make the intention of mufaraqa. You make intention to leave the imam and pray by yourself and continue your prayer. If you've made intention to pray 2 rak'ah and you've prayed with the imam 1, then complete another rak'ah. If you made the intention to pray 4 rak'ah and you've only prayed with the imam 1 rak'ah, then continue 3. If you were in the second rak'ah and you were just about to finish, then finish your prayer normally. If you think that the interruption, the live streaming, is temporary, only a few seconds, then in that case, you can wait for it to come back. But if it's clear that the connection has been interrupted and now it's been over 10, 15 seconds that you don't know what's happening, you make that intention and you pray alone. If the connection is to come back after you've already made the intention to leave the imam, then you don't rejoin. You continue your 2 rak'ah by yourself, and then you rejoin the 2 rak'ah after that. What is our plan? Our plan, inshaAllah, is to begin broadcasting a virtual khutbah starting April 17th, inshaAllah. From a specific location, we will have an imam, 3 followers, and that will fulfill the Hanafi madhab conditions in terms of prayer, Jumaa prayer. We will fully follow the public health regulations in being 2 meters or 6 feet apart. We will have our own prayer mats as well. We will share with you, inshaAllah, the links for the live streaming of this virtual khutbah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. And at 1:30 every Friday, you'll be able to join the Jumaa khutbah, specifically when we're all, or most of us, are at home on Fridays. So this is a good way to bring the family together and attend Jumaa and get the ajr, inshaAllah. And we're going to have something similar for Ramadan, inshaAllah. We will have a Fajr and Taraweeh program, bi'idhnillah, during Ramadan, using the same links, live streaming links on Facebook and on YouTube, where you'll be able to follow a full Ramadan program. There will be lectures, there will be Salat al-Isha, Salat al-Fajr, there will be Salat al-Taraweeh and Witr, and all the khawatir and halaqat that will occur, inshallah, during the month, so that people can continue to attend and to feel connected and spiritually benefit from the environment of Ramadan. What if you don't agree with my rationale and what I explained today in this fatwa? That is fine. There is no problem. If you don't agree, if you find haraj, if you find difficulty accepting and following this fatwa, that is not an issue at all. You can use this live streaming as reminders to benefit from hearing something that reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hearing the Quran during Ramadan, and you don't have to follow in prayer. But I hope you respect the opinion that was offered today, and those who decide to follow this opinion for Jumu'ah purposes and during the blessed month of Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us all to that which is righteous and truthful. I ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to enjoy Ramadan in our masajid. We ask Allah, all of us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to alleviate this difficulty, to grant cure to those who are ill, and to allow us all to stay safe and healthy. Allahumma ameen. I hope and I pray that this fatwa is not needed, that before April 17th, our masajid doors open, and that this fatwa proves to be completely useless. But if that is not the case, I pray that inshallah this fatwa is useful and it fills a void and it performs a service for Muslims wherever they may be. Ameen Allahumma ameen. May Allah forgive my mistakes and guide my tongue to righteousness. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.